Hey,
Hey,
Jonas.
Georg.
Hey,
How you doing?
I'm fine. How are you? Welcome to the session.
Thank you, thank you. I'm good, just enjoying the sunshine here on my terrace. And it's a beautiful day here in Zurich.
Awesome. Nice one. How about switching it up today a little bit and start with reading a few pages from this book and get back to this warm and nice and light-hearted feeling, and then we create out of that.
Sounds good.
Awesome. So I will
Sounds good. I
share
love
the
that book.
screen with you, and let's start here. If you want, I can read the first page. If you live in the past, you can never find happiness. You are trying to live in a reality that no longer exists. It is a misconception to think that if you forgive someone who has harmed you, you are somehow condoning their behavior, making yourself vulnerable so that you will allow them to repeat their hurtful action. This is not so. There's a vast difference between forgiving a person and forgiving an act.
Mhm.
You want to read the next one?
For example, say you were at the zoo and you approached a tiger's cage. If you were silly enough to put your hand through the bars and the tiger, being a tiger, ripped your hand open, you would probably have cursed the tiger. Later on, though, as you thought about it, you'd realize it really wasn't the tiger's fault. You would forgive the tiger, yet you undoubtedly would have learned not to stick your hand into the cage again. Mhm.
Forgiveness releases you from mental anguish and pain, and all the horrible negative feelings an unforgiving mind experiences. When you learn to forgive, you see with clarity the ignorance and the innocence of those who trespass against you. You realize that hanging onto old grudges is like a miser in deep water clutching a bag of fool's gold, unaware that the fool's gold is just heavy, useless rocks weighing him down.
Wait 1 second, I have to reread. It's an interesting part of the sentence. Like a miser deep water clutching at a bag of fool's gold, unaware that the fool's gold is just heavy, useless rocks weighing him down. Hmm.
Why is it interesting for you? What are you hearing in that?
Well, if you wouldn't forgive the tiger that ripped off your hand because it is a tiger, then this grudge that you have and hold against the tiger won't harm the tiger, it will harm you because it negatively influences you. It drags you down to have this hate against a tiger who's just doing what a tiger does. He rips off hands which are stuck through the cage or into the cage. You know? And this is not only related to a tiger, this is related to anything. I guess that hate and grudges just make you feel miserable. It doesn't help you to grow. It diminishes your growth. It makes you small since it drags you down. Like here, the clutching a bag of fool's gold that just drags you deeper down into the ocean.
Hmm. Beautiful. Reminds me on an interview with Quincy Jones, like this legendary producer, music producer.
Mm-hmm.
and he said something like anger is like a poison that just hurts the container in which is stored and not the thing you pour it over.
Mm-hmm.
So if we hold anger in us and we hold on to it because we think we have to be angry about this or personal about the situation, we just hurt ourselves and not the other person.
Yeah, I had a situation just recently. I think I told you about it yesterday, where I was very upset and disappointed from a good friend, and
Mm-hmm.
somehow I wanted to hurt him and to hate him and to make him feel shitty and miserable. But the only thing which happened was that I felt shitty and miserable because I was like occupied in my mind. I had this this person stuck in here, which was not worth to occupy my mind, to steal my energy. It was like making me feel bad about, not about myself because I hated that person. It just made me feel bad. Maybe there is a reason, or there is ground to say like, well, this person didn't act morally or ethically correct and not according to my values, but this shouldn't make me be enraged and be yeah, well, it's easy to say this, you know, it's like you could state it as common wisdom, but like to really have gone through it, to have felt this, and then to get out of it, that is, I think, the teaching that you need to accept, and that you need to also indulge. Like you need to first reflect on this situation, and once, like, sometimes you're just so stuck in it, you know, like then the poison, as you just said, you're like this kind of vehicle, or the container of the poison, and because the poison is so poisonous, or it's bubbling inside of you, this poison, and you don't realize, you first need to change the perspective and see, well, there is poison in this container, and the container is me, and I don't want to have this poison inside of me anymore.
Yeah, beautiful. And would it be helpful for you today to talk about the situation more that you experienced with your friend, and see how we can change the perspective on this and on similar things? Or is there anything else that would be helpful for you that I can support you with today?
It's a nice idea to dig and to reflect on this. I already came so far that I don't hold this grudge anymore.
Amazing.
And this was, I went through this process, not only alone, because there was another person involved, and it was nice to exchange ideas and to also talk about it. Often it helps to just talk about it. So it would be nice to talk about this with you. What I don't want to do is to name this person, or to also get into the like direct, you know, like this because it's also a common friend of ours. So I would prefer, if we stay, let's say, I can use I can,
We stay on a meta level,
on the meta level. Thank you. Yeah, that's it.
which I think is always useful to reflect on a meta level, because then we're not so sucked into the situation and the things we connect with a person or a memory, And when we have a mind shift on this meta level and we come back to the actual thing, it will look different.
Right, right. And on top of that, I don't destroy your image of that person by telling you about what he did wrong to me, because he didn't do anything. He might have not done anything wrong to you. So why would I try to make you shift your mind and change your opinion about this person? You know, it's also nice to go and distance yourself if you're not involved.
Yeah, and not only he didn't do this to me, also the way you would tell me about it is your perception and how you process it. And if we would ask 5 other people how they process it, we would have 5 different realities.
Right, right, right. Yeah, maybe for me it's the tiger in the cage that ripped off my hand. For you, it's a cat in a flat that licked your finger. You know, it's my perspective on this story. So let me start. Like, I mean, it's about honesty, in my opinion, and as well a kind of a moral codex. You know, the bro code kind of thing. Barney Stinson. I mean, it's a funny book. You know, it has some truth to it. And what does bro code mean? It just means don't stab your bro in the back or back him up. You know, give him, like, you know, you're if somebody is in a bad situation or in a good situation, you support him and you're happy for him, and you are not envious or greedy, or you don't try to fuck him over, basically. You know, it's deep inside of us. Like, of course, I think every human has a tendency to feel that he would also like to have this fortunate relationship or this fortunate job or life or whatever. But it's also important that you appreciate the other person that you love to have this, or that you're accompanying since many years throughout his life, and he's accompanying you as a companion throughout your life. And like, there's always this kind of, I help you, you help me. It's a do ut des. It's this Latin concept of um, uh, I give, so you shall give, but it's not quid pro quo. I don't give you the same because I can't offer you the same, because I'm a different person to you.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, we had this relationship, like a long-lasting relationship over many years, and I gave him my inputs or my strengths, and he also gave me his to his possibilities, his kind of inputs. And also we have weaknesses, he have weaknesses, and we helped us to cope with those weaknesses, or we were there in bad times as is in good times, if you want to phrase it like this, you know.
Yeah.
And then at a certain point, people told me that this person is not so honest and not so truthful, and I kind of backed him and I defended him, and I never wanted to believe that he is not the person as I see him to be. And I did that because at the beginning of this call, I told you I don't want to tell you the person who I'm talking about. I don't want to name him, because I don't think that it is anyone's right to dismiss or to blame someone when he's not in the round, first of all, you know, and second of all, doesn't necessarily mean that he's the tiger to you as he was to me, or the cat that he is to you that he isn't to me. You know, like the relationships differ from one person to the other, and maybe he's a completely different person to you than he is to me.
And So what I understood until now is that you said that this idea of the bro code is very important for you, and what it's important for you that that you operate on a kind of high level of values, like trust, like being there for each supporting each other, being clear with each other, and that you also expect this from the people you spend time with.
Right.
And what I heard is that this other person kind of didn't do that and neglected this bro code or this values and didn't met your expectations, and that led to disappointment and anger and grudges that you're not holding on to, but that were there in a moment. Did I get this right?
Right. Yeah, that's a nice way to describe it, and it's very accurate. And if you go into more detail, like if it's the we're now on a really high meta level,
Mm.
and the rest doesn't really matter. It's good that we take this kind of distance.
Yeah, nice. How does it feel for you to see it from this distance?
It's kind of relieving. It's not so, I don't feel as involved anymore, and I don't feel as angry if I look at it from this perspective.
Nice.
I feel light, and I can feel that I am able to decide on how I stand towards this without being occupied and blocked by my negative thoughts. I can just say, well, sometimes you need to also let people go, or it's not meant to be this way. Like, and it doesn't mean it doesn't it's not a loss. You know, it's not a it's okay. Like you sometimes there are people that you connect with, and you have a beautiful time, you have years, months, weeks, days, or whatever, and you have a really intense relationship with a lot of ups and downs. And then also these ways can part, like you can divide, and it's completely okay, because maybe that cat turned into a tiger at a certain point and ripped your hand off, and then you wouldn't stick your hand again into that cage, but that tiger can, you know, you don't have to tame the tiger, because
Nice.
you can't change a person's personality. If this are his values and this is the way he behaved towards you, then you can also let go if you don't want to put effort into it. Like, I think there's also the question of, like, if you maybe I so far I didn't have the chance to talk with that person. I offered him to talk about, I wanted to talk to him. I told him I wanted to talk to him, because he and I, we didn't have like this disagreement directly with each other. It was through a third person, you know.
Okay.
It was basically like Bob
Even
Marley.
more complicated because it's even another reality in between.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's basically like Bob Marley sang once. You know the song "No Woman No Cry." No woman, no cry. It was all about a woman, a beautiful female that deserves to be loved, and I think there was a big misunderstanding between the lines, and yeah, it's turned out to be a big drama, and too many people were affected.
Yeah, and
Uh,
let me stop you here for a
yeah,
second, um, because a few seconds ago I heard something that I think is really important that I would like to take as an angle. And you said, when I asked you, how does it feel to look on this whole situation from this kind of meta level? Um, I understood you saying something like, um, it feels better and feels nice, and the reason why it feels like this is not to have this block of negative emotions in between it.
Right.
So, as a metaphor, you could say you just took off a pair of red colored glasses and now you can see the whole thing in a different color, in a different perspective.
Right. Now I have my
And
clear view again.
yeah,
It was not La Vie en Rose, it was La Vie en Rouge. No, I was seeing red like this kind of.
kind of. And I mean, that's something we talked about before, and I think it's one of the most important things for me nowadays. And this thing is to realize that we always perceive everything around us through filters. And one of these filters is the mood we are in.
Mm-hmm.
And if we are in love, we can take it up with everything. There's nothing that can put us down. We can fight with everybody, or like we can not fight, but we're okay with everything. When we get like a big bill, we say, okay, somehow we can do that. If we find a way to pay this.
Right.
If there's another challenge, there's no challenge. It's always possible to find a solution because you're in love and you're like fine.
Right.
Which I, by the way, think is our innate state, our home base, and that we always come back to. And sometimes we leave this home base and we walk out in the world and leave this light-hearted feeling behind us. Or not, I wouldn't say leave it behind us, but just mask it with low vibrating feelings. And then we have a situation like you just described, that there's like like a block, like a layer of negativity around or in between something, and that's how we perceive something in this very moment. And the way I see it, every human always acts on the best way he can in a given moment. And when we are super much up in our head and we have a lot of thinking going on and a lot of negative thinking, and we're super like, it's like we're lying on the floor with our hands tied up behind our backs,
Bondage.
like on that, we 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 don't see a lot of possibilities, and we act out of that. And when we are super relaxed and very much in our home base, when we are there, when we are in flow, we see a lot of possibilities. We are like calm. We can talk with people on a very relaxed ground, in a very relaxed way, and it's very easy for us to just enjoy ourselves.
True.
And what are you hearing in what I just said?
I just connected it to a recent example. I'm just starting a business and we're looking for a warehouse, which is also serving as a showroom and which is also like going to be our office. So it's got to be nice. And we have we had this beautiful location, that we wanted to really rent out. And because we're still founding, we don't have a company that we can sign the contract with, and we don't have a turnover that we can declare. So why should they rent it to us? It belongs to one of those big property management companies, corporates here. So we had this, it was like a challenge, and we were like, hell yeah, let's get this warehouse. And then they told us, well, we'll give it to somebody else. And then you begin to struggle. No, then you begin like, oh, let me call them. Like, we want to convince them of the opposite. Okay, we have to write this business plan that shows that we're financially strong enough to pay the rent every month. And like, you get like so deep into this shit because you can't have it, or like because you really wanted it to be like this. So you're kind of tied. You're tied to this idea. And what you need to do, or what then I did, is I smoked a joint, and I was like, fuck this. What else can we do to have to kind of achieve what we set out for? And what other opportunities are there? Like, it's not finite. No, like, there are millions of opportunities. Like, we can also say and then this flow came back. Like, these ideas, they just came to me. So I pick up my phone, just call a friend who rents out places as interim places. They're really inexpensive, because usually you can only stay there for 1 or 2 years. And you don't have to commit yourself like we would have had to do to the other location for 5 years, because it's business to business. So like, now the opportunity, or it changed. Like, it's not a hindrance anymore. It's not a hurdle. It's more it's now we have the better choice, or we got to a better point, and we don't have to take that much risk. We have the same kind of factors that are satisfied, and on top of that, we don't pay as much. It's like, I didn't
So you
hold on
found
to
even
this.
better solution.
Right, like, and
Amazing.
it just came through this situation, which seemed so disabling. I was feeling really like I was tight, like, shit, we didn't get this location. What are we gonna do now? Like, you become all upset and kind of lost. And then you just step back. You say, why should I try to do this if it's not possible? I can't be the tiger that they want, or like whatever. I'm just always like, this tiger is stuck in my mind.
That's like maybe, yeah.
That's very far-fetched, but I need to charge my phone. I'm gonna go inside.
So what I wanted to say is, when I would explain you, or like sum up for you what you just told me, I heard this. I heard that you really wanted to have this location, and then you didn't get it, and you got very up into your head, and you had a lot of very loud and annoying thoughts, so to speak.
Right.
And you put a lot of interpretations on it, what it means about you, about your business, what it maybe what you thought about, what did I wrong do in the presentation to him, what you maybe had some thoughts about this person, what like that he's a bad person, all these things that happen super quickly.
Yeah.
And in this stage, you couldn't see any other solution.
Right.
And in the moment where you accept it, it is like it is. And when you took a step back, and when you silenced your mind, your brain, your computer, you started to see a lot of different opportunities. And you said, okay, I could call this person, I could do this, I could do this. And you just reacted to what showed up in the moment, and now you have a location that's even better than the original one.
Right.
And it reminded me very much on this quote of Albert Einstein, and he said, I think 99 times and I find nothing. I swim in silence and the truth comes to me. What kind of insight did you just had? Because is always the sound of insight.
Yeah, another insight that's the sound of insight. So I agree with Einstein. It's a lot of wiseness in this quote, because I feel you could take it to a spiritual level and you could say, well, the universe kind of gets you on the right track again if you just let loose, because we're all just stardust that comes from stardust, and it can flow without you having to put so much energy and effort into making it flow the right way. Like it's like you once told me, I can remember, it's a nice analogy to this. There's a ball swimming in the water and you want to get it out, but you just push it down and push it down below the surface of the water, and it will not come up. So what you need to do is you just need to release your hand. You need to take away the hand, and this ball plops up back to the surface of the water, and then you can just fish it.
Right.
You know, and it's kind of like this. Do you hear the same, like, out of this quote?
Yeah. What I hear is that on the one side there's the intellect, on the other side there's a deeper mind, and neither the mind or the intellect is good or bad. It's just about where we put them into practice, or where we utilize them and how we utilize them. And sometimes, or in my opinion very often, we can't solve a problem with our intellect. And the more we want to solve it with our intellect, the less we can solve it. And the more thoughts we put around it, the more difficult it gets. Because then when we start to think about, why can't I solve it? I studied engineering for 20 years. I'm a well-known engineer. I really should be able to solve this, and I can't even do this. My dad was right. I never make it to something. Then we start to spin around, and it's like a wheel when we are stuck with a car in the mud, and we just press the gas pedal, and the wheel spins and spins, and we never get out of it. And we just dig ourselves deeper into the mud.
Sure.
And in the moment where we stop doing this and where we go back into silence, we kind of tune into this deeper level, or into the universe, into mind, into spirit. There are a lot of different words for it, and everybody can choose the word that he likes. In this moment, the truth comes to us, and we are guided again, and we have an insight, we have an intuition, we have like a harp or flute playing, and we can listen to it and are inspired by its melody. And I think if you look back into history, there are so many examples for this. Like Archimedes shouted Heureka when he was in the bathtub, and not when he was crouching over his studying table. Thomas Edison discovered the gravity when he was chilling out under an apple tree, and an apple fall from the tree on the ground, and he got his insight. This is um, that's the gravity. That's the thing that I was looking for such a long time. And I think everybody of us has a reference experience of something like this. And I think it needs both. I think it needs the intellect, and we need to feel this wall we are walking in, and we just need to feel, okay, we're not, okay, that's the moment we stop and we relax, we do something different, and we wait for guidance. And I think with coaching, it's very much the same. Like, we're asking questions, and sometimes we find the answers in the moment, like immediately, and sometimes we don't know the answer yet, and we can explore it a little bit, and maybe we still don't find the answer, and then I think the best thing is to let it rest and do something different. And when you have a shower, you suddenly spontaneously find the answer. Or I actually really liked how Einstein says it, because he says the answer comes to me all of a sudden by itself.
Right. It's basically, I had an interesting course which was on creativity and innovation. What's the difference between creativity and innovation? Is you innovate a creative idea in a way that you just commercialize a creative idea. That's innovation. You commercialize creativity. And well, like, there is this kind of pattern. No, you first need to, like, dive into a topic, and then you want to creatively develop this product, this service, this business model, or whatever it is. You know, it can be also a painting, so you need to first know how to use the brush and which colors are for what, and what kind of colors you can use to paint this beautiful painting. And then after you, I'm back, sorry.
Yeah, and then
And then when you set out to paint, then you still need to have this kind of insight. What are you going to paint? What kind of idea are you going to develop? And it often helps to step back and let the void, like the universe or whatever you want to call it, you swim in the void, or what Einstein said, you then just step back and you go dancing, or you do sport, or you go for a walk, and you don't even think about it anymore. And then at a certain point, maybe when you wake up or before you go to sleep, you get this idea. It just comes to you. It just, like, somehow in the back of your head, everything starts working, because once you started and you dived into this field of whatever you want to explore and that you want to develop, and then it just comes naturally. It's just basically nature or the universe or the whatever it is, and it comes to you. And if it doesn't come to you, it's also okay. You know, then it might not have been the thing that was the right thing for you to set out for, or
yeah, or
right,
not the right time.
or not the right time.
And when these insights come to you, or to these ideas, can you remember how you felt? Like, what was the feeling that accomplished the insights?
It was it's like a spark. You feel like somehow this kind of spark, it's joyful. It's not something that
Ah,
is forced. It's something which is coming from, like, a deep source. It comes from a deep well, like a well that is inside of you, and it just it just comes, and it naturally comes, and it's there is no force, it's lightness. It's the opposite. It's not weight, it's lightness.
Yeah, easy.
Easy. And it's not intellect. It's this kind of consciousness or whatever you gain over your intellect. It's the harmony between the two, because first you go into the topic with your intellect most of the time, because you intellectually try to understand the material that you're interested in, and then you also need to zoom out. You zoom in, that's your intellect, and maybe you zoom out, and then it's like whatever is happening here that you can't control because it's not your control, you know?
Amazing. There's a lot of wisdom in that, I think. And something that I want to point out is that you said this insight, these fresh ideas, the solutions, the answers, they come with a joyful and wide and sparkling feeling. And I think that's a great way how we can distinguish if something is coming from our intellect or from a deeper place.
Right. It's crazy because right now that's very acute, very present for me.
Yeah.
Yesterday we were sitting, like my founders and I were just writing down our founders agreement, and we have strategic conversations and how do we structure, and then you work and you're sitting there together and you're trying to get done with it. Like it's kind of this, you have this pressure, like it's the time you need to achieve something, you need to be productive, and you sit there till 11, till 12, 1 a.m, 2 a.m, and you're getting more tired and your brain doesn't function anymore, and you're like just like, it's not worth it, because in the first place we're humans, we need to live, we need to also we need to listen to our bodies. If we're tired, you go to sleep. And then this morning I woke up and I had this idea of like, hey, let's call my friend, let's call this guy, and ask him if there are any locations at the moment that could serve our purpose. And then at the same time I had these other thoughts, they just came like because I rested and digested, and I was not fighting. I was in my really like my parasympathetic nervous system, and I was not only digesting the food and the training that I did yesterday, and I didn't just build muscles, I also built ideas completely unaware of it. Like it was not my conscious mind, it was my unconscious mind.
Yeah, or like universal mind even.
Universal mind, right?
And well, yeah, I think letting go of something, accepting something as it is, the moment, is super, super helpful and super important. And for example, I wanted to create a group coaching program, and I did. It will start tonight. And I had one client signing up for it, and then two others, and then two of them canceled. And I already called everybody I could call, and I didn't know how to. I was like out of possibilities how to get a group together. And it was a little bit annoying for me at the beginning, and I had a lot of loud thoughts, a lot of the marching band in my head. And then at one point I was like, okay, even if the group is not happening, I can offer this client who signed up like one-on-one sessions. It's fine. And I kind of gave up on the group coaching thing for now. And all of a sudden, three other people contacted me.
Nice.
So
just out of nowhere, like
out of the blue. And I think giving up is very powerful because then we step back. And something I wanted to ask you that I was really curious about is when you reflect and when you look back on this moment where you really wanted to have this fucking location and you were really like up in your head. Can you connect back to that for a second?
Sure.
Then you also can remember that this was not a moment where you were able to find a good solution or make good decisions.
Right.
Right? And it was not because you're a bad person, it was just because where you are and you were very much connected to your loud own thinking. And
True. Yeah.
right? Okay. And when we come back to the beginning of our conversation where we talked about your friend and about the thing he did, what do you think? Do you think he was in a similar situation? Do you think he was grounded in the universe, or do you think he was caught up in his thinking and didn't act it in the best way he can, or he could when he wasn't in this thinking state?
Well, I wonder if he's ever connected to the universe.
I know people like this where I wonder as well, and I feel sorry for them. And I also feel compassion for them because I know how it feels for me when I'm
Right.
not connected to the universe, or when I'm up in my head a lot, and when I have a lot of painful and loud and itchy thinking of worrying and thinking of anger and all these things. And then I know that I'm not making good decisions. And because of that, I stopped making good decisions at all when I'm in a state like this.
Yeah. I mean, how did our coaching start? No, like it's we've been now like you've been my coach now for 2 months or three
Yeah,
months almost.
yeah,
And I was like, also for a while, I was feeling like I'm in an autopilot. Like I was just working, I was in consulting, I had like 12 to 14-hour work days. And then something happened, like I went on this journey, which I'm still on. And I had like this terrible accident that you know of. And it made me, I always thought about like I wanted to be more spiritual. Why? Because my girlfriend did yoga and I started Ashtanga yoga, and then I was getting dragged closer to this world, but I never really connected so much to my spirit. And even when I downloaded this app, this I think it's called mindfulness or something like that. Um, Headspace. It's
yeah.
like the intro for everyone to start meditating, and it
Now
still didn't work. I tried to force myself. Now I want to be the spiritual kind of guy, and I didn't really ask myself that question. I just did. So when I had after coming back from my coma that I was in, I first started to ask myself that question: Who am I? Who am I? Like what is my purpose? Why are we here? Like this question: Why are we here? And I can feel this compassion for the friend I thought to have, because maybe he just never really digged so deep, and he never let loose of his kind of like, he's still in this autopilot mode. He's like, we're so much influenced through the capitalistic society that we live in, that we always want more, we always want to achieve more, we want to have more, but it's not about I want to be more, like, you
Mm.
know. And then if you want to be more, you need to ask yourself, who am I? What do I want more of it? And what do I don't want to be is also a good question that you need to ask, I think.
These are things, yeah, that you definitely can ask yourself. And for me personally, a question that got even more deep than who am I was like, what am I? Because
What?
with who am I, we always connect, or not always, but it's very easy to connect our own story to it and connect what we have been thinking for a long time with it, and with asking, what am I think it opens up more space.
True. Well, like, I have an interesting question, which is a follow-up question. Like, what do you want to be remembered for, or what should be on your gravestone? Like, what's the what? Why were you here, or for what?
Hmm. And I mean, these are all questions that we already explored in our coaching sessions before this. And I think it's amazing to keep on asking these questions and see how they develop, because they will develop, and we will
Yeah,
have new insights and new ideas.
it's crazy, you know. Like yesterday, I thought I want to be a different person than I think I want to be today.
And still, underneath all of that, there is like this guidance, and that's something we can rely on. And a coach that I really, really like, Michael Neal, said, this guidance is 100% reliable and 98% unpredictable.
Yeah, unpredictable and reliable at the same time.
Like this car accident, for example, you had is unpredictable, but I'm pretty sure
Yeah,
it was the right thing in the right moment.
yeah. I mean, that's why we're talking. You know, it's opened my eyes for, and it also, you know, sometimes you need to ask for help. We are a collective of people that can widen each other's horizon and understanding of this world. And it's, if you always think that I'm the strong one, I can do everything myself because I have a six pack, it doesn't mean that you can handle such a life. Life is full of new experiences, like the one that we were talking about with the friend, or like the accident itself. You know, how do you cope with it if you lose what you thought is making you the human that you want to be seen as?
Mm.
You know, it's like that, then you get like these anxieties, and there's so much to it, you know, like this um yeah, if you can't answer the question who am I with the answer you had before to this question, then changes, flips your whole world upside down. No, it's like you lose this fundamental thing, but then it's still there. And that's what I realized. It doesn't matter if you're walking or in a wheelchair. You can, it doesn't matter if you have if you're black or white or Asian or whatever. It's you. It's still this kind of what you said before, like, you get back to yourself by not trying too hard to be someone else or to do something that you set out for initially.
Yeah,
Like this kind of, you return home anyway.
yeah. And I mean, if you think about that, that everything we experience here on this planet is coming out of a Big Bang, you also see that everything is coming out of the same place out of the same point.
True.
And yeah, life is a full contact sport. Things happen, like car accidents. That like I had a car accident, you had one, and we can't control what's happening around us, but we can know and really know in our hearts that we will be fine because our essence is not out of this world, it's from a different world and it can be scratched here. And I think what's really important is to emphasize that it's completely innocent if we are caught up in our thinking, and if it's completely innocent if we follow the way that most persons, most people in this society are following, because that's what we see, that's what we learn in school, that's what we learn mostly from society, right? Um, and I think it's important to see the innocence in other people and also in ourselves, because nobody is perfect and nobody has to, in my opinion. And for example, I was a little bit like nervous a few seconds before our session today because we wanted to record it and podcast and big. I had a lot of thinking for a few minutes, and I had like a really relaxed start in the morning, and then some unrelaxed things, and I was like, fucking. I was really angry about this unrelaxed things because I thought this shouldn't happen right before like this coaching call I want to record because I should be sent out, and I just caught myself in, hey, you're just thinking that the events that happen to you now, just right now in the morning, have an influence about how you feel. And that's not the case. It's how I see them. And when I make up a story in my mind that this podcast is super important, and when I make a story up in my mind that this surrounding, the things that happen in the surrounding have an influence on me, of course I feel annoyed.
Right.
And it's, I
And
think
that's
it's
completely
amazing
understandable.
how we always can catch ourselves and bring ourselves back.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
think
you
that's free
you
will.
you become wound up, you become wound up, like it's
Yeah.
a kind of a vicious cycle. Like you think, oh shit, I stood up with the wrong leg, this saying in German.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
why my whole day doesn't happen the way I want it to, or I have
Yeah.
this bad feeling about it.
Absolutely.
I feel you, because this is also, and then I have to tell you, Georg, if you want to re-record this session, it's okay too.
Right? And we have all the time out. So the only difference between a session that we wouldn't record and a session that we record is how I think about it. There's no
Yeah,
difference other than that.
and that we talk in English.
That's right for today, yeah. But for
But
example,
language
like
doesn't matter.
this is something that was really important for me in DJing, playing in front of people, because there is no difference if I play set for one person or for 1,000 persons. Um, the only difference is what I think about it. And something that I would like to come back to is to the very beginning of our conversation, where you told me about this bro code and this values. And what I wanted to ask you is, did you had an agreement with this other persons about these values?
it's kind of an unwritten rule that you don't do this shit, you know?
Okay, it's unwritten rule. So, an unwritten rules are unwritten rules. And for me, that sounds like a lot of expectations. You have the expectation that everybody follows these unwritten rules. And the thing with expectations is that you can't, you only can be disappointed. Because when the other person is following your expectations, it's not a big deal. They are supposed to. And when they don't do it, you are disappointed and angry.
Yeah, happens a lot, especially in relationships.
What do you think? How could it help you? Could it be beneficial for the relationships if you would speak about it with the other person and
We,
and find agreements about this? Are you back? Yeah, you're back. Did you
oh,
get my question?
I got your question. Partially. Can you repeat the last part?
Yeah.
My phone just flipped.
So, do you think it could be helpful to find agreements, like clear agreements with people about these things and speak about these unwritten rules and say, hey, this is important for me, and I would like to create an agreement around this for both of us. Is How do you think about this? Is this something that's important for you too? Is this something that we can agree on, or do you want to add something or change something? Do you think that could be helpful if you would do this more in your relationships?
I think it would be helpful, and I think it would be really helpful, especially in relationships that are intense, that are deeper kind of relationships, like your girlfriend, your boyfriend, your husband, your wife, especially these kind of relationships. It's so oftentimes you enter a relationship, in my opinion, and you really don't know what to expect of this relationship. Like you don't have any expectations at the beginning, and then those expectations, they build up through over time. Like you start like you start liking that person, or you start having whatever kind of shared interests, and then you have certain expectations towards each other that are like unspoken. That's what I think you just said, no, like you have these untold expectations toward the other person doesn't even know what you expect of them, and then they can't act accordingly because you never said it, and then you're disappointed in the end. But you're just disappointed because you never communicated. Like it's the communication that's
Yeah,
the
it
key.
sounds kind of weird, no?
And then you have to also say, like, communication is a lot of work, relationships are a lot of work. So it's a question of, are you willing to put that work into a relationship? And then, like, of course, then the initial question is, what relationship are you expecting to have with that person? But you never know at the beginning, so it's always important that, like, I think every human being that you interact with is worth the time to communicate what you think and feel. And then it's a question of, are you able to put your feelings and your thoughts into words that you are communicating to that person? It's oftentimes difficult to put your expectations into words, and to put it into words in a way that the other person understands, first of all, and is not like, kind of, if I tell you what I expect of you, I can tell it to you in a constructive way or in a deconstructive way. Oftentimes it happens in a deconstructive way in a relationship. If you tell the person, you didn't bring out the trash again, like, come on, like you're just leaving this mess behind in our apartment every time, but you never tell that person that you expect them to do that. Like you're just angry afterwards through whatever you find. And this is just a mild example, no? Like it can be like, well, we never agreed on exclusivity, that's why I fucked this other girl. And then it's like, oh shit, you destroyed my reality because I never told you that I don't want this to happen.
Mm. Yeah, I think these are a lot of strong examples how unspoken expectations can create uneasiness in relationships. And right now, I think, or I see three key things. And the first key thing is to always remind myself that if another person does something stupid or bad, it's not the other person, it's the mood the other person is in. This metaphor is the tiger and the cage. The second thing I remind myself very often, and that's very crucial for me in relationships, is to know that the other person is not responsible for my feelings. I'm responsible for my feelings. And a feeling is not coming from what the other person is doing, it's coming from what I think about it and how I see it. And I think if both partners in a relationship are very aware of these two things, a relationship gets very easy and nice. And then I also think this is the best foundation to create together. And for example, finding agreements, I think that's creating together. And it's like, let's find agreements that work for both of us, and that's a win-win for both of us. And then it's just easy, and we know how to do certain things together.
Oh, true. So that's the third thing. So
Yeah.
so what was the first thing again? Can you tell me again, like 1, 2, 3?
For me right now, and I think that's also stuff that can develop, but if you would ask me about these three things, I would say the number one is to know that we all act through our moods, and that our moods are like biases, like they influence what we do in certain moments.
Yeah. Sometimes you don't control your emotions and your emotions control you.
I wouldn't agree on this, and if this is like, I think that's a big rabbit hole. And maybe we can come from the other side. When we say first, I know that it's not the facts that bother me, it's my opinion about it, which is, by the way, a quote from a Greek philosopher 3,000 years ago, and I think it holds a lot of truth in it still. So it's not the situation, it's my thinking about it that creates feelings in me.
Mm-hmm.
And second of all, I know for myself that when I am leaving my home base, when I'm leaving this lighthearted feeling, I'm not making big decisions and I'm not getting into arguments or discussions with people, because then I know I'm seeing things through a distorted filter, through a scratched pair of glasses, and I will do and say things that I wouldn't do and say if I would be in a lighthearted feeling.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, with this awareness, it's just a very good idea to keep myself out of discussions and arguments. And I'm also aware that this is not always possible, and sometimes I realize it too late, and and I'm aware that this is very innocent. And on the flip side, you could say, I'm aware that it's also innocent if other people are doing this. It's innocent if other people are caught up in their thinking and because of that do stupid things
Yeah.
or say stupid things. And of course, I can choose with whom I want to spend my time. And if somebody's doing this all the time and he's also not putting any efforts in getting a bigger understanding or like rise his level of consciousness, I can choose to not interact with this person anymore. That's completely fine.
Mm-hmm.
And I think being aware that of my own thinking and also being aware of where the other person is in his thinking and in his moods make a relationship way more joyful. And based on this joyfulness, we can find agreements around things that are important for us, or that we can find agreements around um, all day life, all life, all day Alltag, all day,
Yeah, like day to day, like this
yeah,
kind of,
like day-to-day things.
right,
Does it make
all
sense?
day, every day. Yeah, it does. Could you forgive Hitler for what he has done? Or who?
You know, for me, that's an intellect question. And no matter what metaphor you put up, or no matter what concept you put up, you will always find a way and an example to intellectually prove or argument that it doesn't work. And I'm I'm convinced that if you ask me that, I'm convinced that Hitler was not a happy person,
He
and
was
that
not a happy person.
he didn't have fun in his life.
Yeah.
And this is not, and of course, this doesn't justify what a person like he did. And I think it's it's an amazing and very important example how important it is that people learn more about this. That shit like this doesn't happen.
Yeah, that's what I just thought about when you said um, he was not a happy person. What caused this? What caused such a person to do such things? Is it our common responsibility as a society to prevent this from happening and to kind of, like to what has happened to him. Like he wanted to become a painter. I think that was his initial goal that he set out for. Like he wanted to become a painter. I think he couldn't have had done that much bad with a pencil or a brush. Why what caused him to become a politician?
I mean,
It was his
no, we all
resentment, and
don't know. We all don't
yeah,
know.
we all don't know. But
And I
that's just
think,
like an example.
no, my opinion is that real change in society starts on a very small level, and it starts on a shift in consciousness in us, in people in this society. And right now I'm reading a book called Modello, and it's about like a ghetto in the States that was infamous for horrible conditions, like drug dealing everywhere, shootings, violence, everything you can imagine happened in this place. And the government tried a lot of things to get it under control, and nothing worked. And then somebody got involved who talked with them about things that we talk today. Talked with them about universal guidance, about thinking, about emotions. And the whole place changed. And all the violence went away, and all the horrible things that people did went away. Because the people changed, and the people could see that they don't have to do this. And and I think that's like a nice end, or feels like a nice end. What do you think? Are we there?
Yeah, it's a nice end to this. Like a change of consciousness can lead to a new world order, or
Yeah.
to a new. Mhm. Especially what is on your individual level matters then in the end for the whole. It's the first step it's the only step that you take individually to contribute to this.
Yeah. Yeah. I think so.
And you do that not because of the others, you do that because of yourself, because it makes your life happy and you feel at ease and you are in sync.
Hmm.
Nice, yeah. Good ending.
What do you think, Jonas? What was the single biggest insight for you today?
It's about about the flow that you want to be in, and that you sometimes try to force instead of just letting go and let it flow. Like you try to enforce it. You're really you try to clench your fist and you try to do it, but then it's just like let loose and it's just come. And this is a really big it's so easy to say this, but it's a wisdom to really understand. I think this is what you meant. No, like intellectually, I can refer to it, and I can empathize with this idea. And then if you're stuck in this situation, like you were this morning, or like I was yesterday with the location, to then leave this intellect and say, let's get back home. It doesn't matter that much, and there are other ways, and there's always like this kind of force that holds you and that you can't control, like this 98%. It is not foreseeable what happens, but you can be sure that it will be there, that it covers your ass.
Amazing.
It's kind of a trust in the unknown. It's a trust in a higher power, whatever it is, like if it is God or if it is the universe or if it is, name it, it's just you're not the only one who's in control, and you don't have to be.
Absolutely.
Nice. Yeah.
Big insight, I think. I feel
Very
it.
big insight.
Beautiful.